Let's talk now for a moment about your experience or your hope for church. What is something that has worked so far for years, and what's something that churches need to learn to hold loosely and be willing to let go?
In my opinion, I would say that, hey, learn to respect others' opinion. Because whatsoever you're saying is just your opinion. It doesn't mean that, hey, this is what it has to be. So I need to look from that perspective that, hey, it is his opinion, which could be different from mine, and that's totally okay.
I remember the first time I saw a kid walk in shorts and flip-flops. I'm going, what are you doing? My mom and dad would have absolutely stroked out if I'd walked in the room and said, this is what I'm wearing to church. And then I realized it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
For me, and I don't know if this is here and this is whatever, but I'll share with y'all. So, the rules about loving people and are we truly going to be people of Christ and love unconditionally was put back in my face as a parent. And so that's where my world completely changed. And as a mom, I could not help but love my child. And then it became, am I going to find a community of church that would not look at me differently because I'm a parent who's choosing to love my child? Can I find a pastor who's going to love my family just like we are? And that's what I found here. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for your courage. Let me start out with some kind of lighthearted. Let's get the background in place here. All right. I want you to finish these sentences, okay? I want my MTV. Just sit right back and you'll hear
A tale
Tale.
of a people driven.
there it is, okay? You take the good, you take the bad.
You take them both, and there you have the facts of life.
There you go. We should have had a
We need a
competition.
buzzer.
Like a buzzer, yeah. Okay. Here's the story,
Of a lovely lady.
okay? In West Philadelphia,
Born and raised.
on the playground.
There's
Okay.
that most of it.
There it is. How about making your way in the world today?
Takes everything you got.
Takes everything you got. Man, we could do this all day
Yeah,
long.
yeah.
All day.
How about this one? Let me shift it up a little bit. Where's the...
Beef.
All right. And then I've fallen...
And I
Can't
can't
get up.
See, all day, right? We could do this.
Hey, Life Alert's still going strong. Too.
Life Alert is a solid product now. Okay. How about this one? This will really need context for some folks, but be kind, please.
Rewind.
Blockbuster days. Yep. Okay. Wax on,
wax
Wax
off.
wax off. Okay. I know.
Paint the fence.
Paint the fence. I know you are.
But what
What am I? Good. All right, good. Okay, I think that's a wrap. All right, now let me ask you some questions that are that just proved we're all on the same page, right? A couple of questions about your experience as your line of sight now to the world. What shaped you more growing up? Your family structure, culture around you, the tech shifts, or something else? What had the greatest shaping power on you? Your family structure, the culture around you, technological shifts, or was it something else?
I would like to say that, it was my family structure.
Okay.
Because if I go back in my time, we were big families. Because my family was a family of 7.
Okay.
We were 5 brothers and sisters, and my father was the only one working in those days. Being Christian, he was a honest guy with integrity, and so it was difficult for him to feed the 7 mouths as a single person working. So those were the kind of things which we grew up. I mean, I was the oldest in the house, so I grew up watching that so closely.
Okay.
Every single move, every single struggle. And within that, how faithful he was being a Christian, how devout Christian he was, that he never gave up in his faith. And so that was an inspiration to me.
Okay.
And I would say, yeah, proudly, I grew up watching him so closely. And so that's the reason that I was molded being a good Christian.
Okay. Thank you. Others?
Mine's going to be very different because my dad is a retired Southern Baptist minister. So I grew up very sheltered in that smaller churches. It's like my family and church were almost one thing growing up.
Right, sure.
So that shaped me in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Others?
What shaped me early was just my friends. We were kind of like Goonies.
Okay.
We just,
Goonies,
if we
nice
weren't in
reference.
school, we were out doing something until
Yeah.
Outside.
it was time to be home.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even really know my parents that much because we were always out. The only time I saw them was dinner and before I went to bed.
Okay.
But as an adult, definitely my parents always being there for us.
Yeah.
Being at every soccer game, being at everything, coaching something.
Okay.
That, looking back, made me the man and the dad that I am.
Okay.
Which I didn't realize, like I say, when I was growing up, because I didn't even hang around with my parents.
Okay.
I assumed they got up and every day and went to work. That was,
Right. Okay. Good.
I think I'm probably a blend between these two. I mean, I would say my family, but also my neighborhood. I had a group that was like the Goonies. We'd leave in the morning, go to the neighborhood pool for swim practice. We'd all ride our bikes there. We'd ride around the neighborhood. We wouldn't come home until, the street lights came on. But my mom stayed at home. She was always home. And all the kids in the neighborhood knew that my mom was home. And yeah, she kind of, and my dad was a pilot, so he was gone a couple days a week. So mom was the mom of everybody in the neighborhood,
Is that
and
right?
you knew to behave. You knew to behave when she was around, because she had to handle it all herself when my dad was gone. So I would say they definitely had the most influence.
Yeah, for me, it was without a doubt family structure. Yeah, it just, I mean, at every, they were always there
Were they? Okay.
until they weren't.
Yeah. And then have they both passed?
Yeah, my
Yeah.
parents
When-
both passed.
When did they pass?
My dad passed in 2003 when I was 32 years old.
Okay.
And mom passed 9 years after that when I was 40.
Okay.
And so that was in 2012. So, I mean, they both passed very young. So,
Still tender, isn't it?
oh, yeah.
Be-
Yeah, without a doubt.
because of how
Because
How strong
everything,
the relationships
everything
were.
growing up was about the family.
Okay.
And my brother and sister and I are all still very close because of that.
That's good.
So,
Okay.
yeah, without a doubt.
Thank you,
Not
sir.
even a,
So if you could go back and have a conversation with your 21-year-old self, what would you say?
I don't know what I would tell myself, but there's one thing after growing up: be the parent that your kids still want to hang out with when you're 50.
Okay.
Because our kids will still go to concerts with us, and that's the one thing I always think about. And I always tell every young parent, be at everything your kids do. Don't worry about work. Your kids will remember you being there
Being
for them.
present, being present
Yeah.
for them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are the two things I always think. I'm like, I got to make sure I tell these young people this.
Okay. That's good, dear.
Well, mine is going to be a little different, but I don't know. Because my father used to say that there's honesty is going to pay you sooner or later, so be honest. And the one thing I learned, there's no alternative to hard work. You have to work hard, because I saw my father working hard. So I feel as of now that if I have to tell my kids, I have to just tell them, work hard. But the technology has changed. Like in our days, we never had anything on the tip of the finger. But now, if you ask a question, pull out the phone, and Google has almost every answer.
Sure.
And so I don't know how I'm going to convince them that, yeah, you got to work hard, or you got to work smart, or work with Google,
Okay.
AI. So it's a difficult thing for me.
Okay. Which is an unknown territory to
It is.
navigate. because the landscape has shifted so greatly, when you have to question your own, do I work hard or smart? Because both can get you there. And so how do I hold on to which virtue that I want to hold the
Yep.
strongest, Thank you, Robert. Okay. Others, what would you tell your 21-year-old self if you can go back and have one conversation, just one?
I don't know because I still feel like I'm 21.
Okay. There we go.
I really do. I don't feel like I'm as old as
Really?
the number says I am.
Okay. All right.
I wish I could go back and tell me that God is a lot bigger than I knew that he was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good word. All right. What do you know now? Because I don't know if you grimaced the way I did when I read, that opening paragraph and we're all midlife. This is midlife. I mean, depending on how far out our expiration date goes. But when you think about that, what do you know now that you didn't know then? What do you know now? Because we've been around the block enough to have had some failures and some falling and some scar tissue to prove from it. And what do you know now that you didn't know then?
Time is incredibly precious. You just never know how much time you've got with somebody or in a certain stage of life or whatever it may. So wherever you are, enjoy that moment. Enjoy that relationship. Enjoy that friendship. Enjoy, take life for everything that it's worth because it's those kind of things can be so fleeting,
Yes.
and you don't get it back.
Okay. Good. Others, what do you know now that you didn't know then?
Gratitude, maybe. I'm a little more grateful for even the small things. And I think I'm not as sheltered as I was. I've seen a lot more, and I know that I am blessed. And I don't want to ever take that for granted.
Okay. That's good.
I think for me, no, when I got out of school, I had a chance to either go work somewhere else or stay close, but I think it was worth starting a family and staying close and not going out somewhere else.
Okay. Good. Good. Okay. So, you've heard me talking before about how some say that our lives can be thought of in two halves. First half of life, second half of life. We're right there somewhere in the middle. And it's been said that the first half of life we spend it building the container, right? We're creating the structure and building the name and pursuing the thing and developing something to point to and say, look what I did, the container. But then something happens usually where there is a moment of loss or trauma or pain or brokenness or failure, after which you look at the container that has cracks in it now and you say, I'm ready for something beyond the container. And then the second half of life, we're told, is spent learning what contents are meant to go in that container, right? How have you seen that play out in your life? And as you've made the journey from first half, now beginning to move into second half, how has that rung true for you?
I had a friend who I grew up with all my life who passed away at 40 from ALS. And at her service, listening to the way she was talked about, it made me realize that what the important things are. Everybody said she did more living in her 40 years of life than most people do in a lifetime.
Okay.
And that really kind of resonated with me. And I said, what would you be remembered by right now? What would people be saying about you?
Yes.
And how do you want to be remembered?
That's strong. That's really strong, Becky. Good. I think it's David Brooks who said that there are resume virtues and eulogy virtues.
Yeah.
And most of us spend our life building the resume virtues. But really, it's the eulogy, because nobody talks about your resume at your funeral, right? So what are the eulogy virtues that you are discovering matter more than maybe we thought they mattered?
When my dad passed, I remember the night of his viewing that there was a line of people down, I mean, a small town where he was buried, where he grew up. And there was a line of people down the sidewalk, and everybody that came in had a story about how dad treated them. And that's where, for me, it's relationships and how you treat people, how you look at.
Okay.
I mean, people. He ran on Fort Stewart. He ran the guest house, which is basically a motel for service people as they come in and off of base when they're either coming in or
Okay.
When they don't have quarters. The people that would change out the rooms or the maids, the janitors, all talked about how he was always so friendly with them and lifted them up. And I was like, that's what it's about.
Others?
Well, I'll talk about my father, because my father, he used to work for railways, and since he was a train conductor, I don't know how do you relate that position here in this country, but someone who checks the tickets.
Yeah.
So that's what he used to do. So he used to have a kind of reputation that such an honest man who never takes bribe or never thinks about it, or so people used to come and say that, hey officer, why not make some room for me? And so he used to have his chart, and he used to say that, sir, as per the chart, your name is on so and so number, so you'll have to wait for that. But sir, I have something, So he used to say that, yeah, looks good, but yeah, I'm not going to enter in that. You'll have to fall in the queue, and if it happens, I'm going to make it. So he retired, and the time when he retired, the whole town was celebrating with him that, oh my goodness, what an officer we had. And we were just awestruck that, look at this.
Yeah.
Is it even possible in these days? And that was kind of legacy he left behind, that even today when he's not here, but if we happen to meet his co-workers or people who were associated with him, they still talk about him that, wow, what a gentleman was your father. I think, yeah, something if I can do or reflect close by, that's what I think.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rob.
I can mix your last two questions kind of together. I've been very blessed to not have any brokenness before. And yes, my parents did get divorced, but I was already out of the house, had my own family. So I can say I'm very blessed to not have brokenness or stuff to look back at. But with the eulogy virtues or that, I don't even look at that. I want as long as my wife and my kids know that I was a good dad and a good husband, I really don't care if there's anybody at my funeral.
Okay.
And they can throw a party, they can do whatever they want, but as long as at the end of their lives they know that
Okay.
I was able to do that, that's what means something to me.
Okay. Well, what do you think is a misconception about Generation X that is made by other generations about your generation? What do you think other generations may get wrong about you, about your generation?
Well, I won't say that what they may get wrong, but see, it's a happening thing. Like, when I was young, I used to feel that, hey, my parents, you don't know anything. So I used to argue that you don't know about it, we know about it. And so something similar is happening now. Because if I have to put something across and my kids would say, Dad, that's not the way. So I think
That
natural.
must just be an India thing, because that never happens in America. It never happens in America. Not to, no, because I told you, when my boys got from 18 to where they are now, about 17 to right now, I am the dumbest person on the planet, right? So I think it's generationally, every generation experiences that.
Well, I have a funny thing to share, when it comes to, because these days they use all those abbreviations, IDK, LOL, and all this, so I may not remember correctly, but let me just share with you. So I asked my son, hey son, what does IDK, LY, TTYL mean? And so he responded, he said, Dad, I don't know, love you, talk to you later. You know what I responded? Don't worry, I'll ask your sister.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Well,
I don't know, but this actually happened.
I appreciate your confession on that. That's pretty good, Rob.
That's good.
All right. Anybody else on that one? Any misconceptions that others may make about our generation?
That's tough because I don't know that I really have paid that close attention to what other generations think of us.
Yeah.
Yes, which is interesting, isn't it? Because if we're called the bridge gap generation, we're called the middle child generation between boomers, right, and millennials. And so in many ways, the middle child generation is not quite sure what others think of us anyway.
And I'm a middle child in my family. I have 3 siblings, so I was like double. I was like,
Fair enough.
Maybe our music choices, but we got the best of both worlds. We got Led Zeppelin back before us. We got some stuff in front of us.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to react to some statements that I'm about to make. So these are statements that come out of a deep body of research from people who study us, people who make great contributions to sociologically understanding the dynamics of generations after generations, like Barna and Pew Research and the sort. I'm going to read a quote from one of the experts, and you just react to it. Tell me what you think. Generation X is the last generation to grow up offline and the first generation to come of age online. They are digital immigrants, fluent in both analog nostalgia and digital adaptation. You feel that's true?
That's 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a part of it.
And you're a part of it. That's right. Okay. What's that been like? Say something about the mysterious in-between, 1 foot in one world, 1 foot in another world, what that's been like navigating from an analog world and all that symbolizes, and a digital world and all that symbolizes. Coming in when the lights come on the streets, that's the world in which you began, but now you're in a world that is dominated by other kind of lights, What's that been like?
The only thing I remember is I had a Georgia Tech professor in structures, and he said, you need to know how to do it on paper, even though he wrote the preeminent program to make sure you could do it with a computer.
Okay.
That's the only time I remember those two really juxtaposing each other right in the same spot.
All right.
Yeah, and I can kind of, feel that because there are certain things in my daily life I'm like, I know I have an easy way to do this, but I want to know the how to or whatever behind it, and so that if I don't have that new thing to kind of as the crutch, I still want to be able to function, and but
Okay.
It's kind of that caught in between those two eras, because we can easily look back and go, well, we had the rotary dial on the phone and it had a cord that we would stretch to the closet to go talk to our friends.
Yep.
But our kids know nothing about that.
Right.
And it's hard to even communicate to them what that is and what that's like, much less if you put one in front of them, would they even know how to dial it,
Okay.
and then having a household with 6 TVs in it, where growing up, you had one, and up until I was probably almost in high school, We didn't even have a remote on the TV. I mean, my brother and I were the remote. Hey, get up and
You were
change
the
it to, change
I
it.
love that. Yeah, you are the remote.
Right.
Yeah.
Dad would lay there on the couch smoking his cigarettes and, turn it to MASH, It's just, it's time for MASH. Okay, well, all right.
Yep.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And now it's just like, oh my goodness, where was this all my life?
I'll definitely be honorary about one of those. I will never buy an electric vehicle.
Amen.
Right. Do you still at times find yourself genuinely awestruck at what we can do now in this world? I'm talking about from you are the remote control to all that can be done. Do you at times find yourself still kind of, wow, is this real? Do you find yourself in that kind of space?
Yep. Like in my days, I would say when I was a kid, we used to wait for another day for the newspaper to check what's happening in the world.
Yeah.
But this day, at the click of the phone, within the very next second, it's right in front of you on the screen. And so I really feel so amazing how to relate that.
Let me ask you a question about that, Robert. Is that a good thing?
Both the ways, I would say, good and bad.
Yeah.
Good because if it is used in a correct manner or correct way, but bad if it is used in a negative way. Because anything
Well, I'm
is
mainly
possible.
thinking also about something. Your son sat in that chair at the previous interview with my son in this chair, and these youth who Gen Z talking about constant access and awareness of all the world's problems in real time. And they were answering the question I asked them about how the experts say that they are the most anxious generation in modern history. And when I said, why is that? That's what we are constantly aware. We are never away from an awareness. You had to wait for the next day for the newspaper to come in.
Yes.
And some days I'm like, wow, that was kind of nice.
Well, it to me, it kind of goes back to your sermon last 2 weeks ago on the screen time. We didn't have that, so I mean, we had to find other avenues to occupy our time. Where whether we put that toward something good or maybe not so good, but and then talking. Early on, I bullied a little bit at school. But you went home and you could get away from that. Nowadays, these kids can't because it gets worse. Sometimes the online bullying is even worse than the the physical bullying, and that's where one place where I go, I would not want to be even remotely a kid in this age and time.
That's good.
Because you can't get away from it.
Okay. So Gen X lived through the Cold War, the crack epidemic, the rise of AIDS, 9/11, and the 2008 recession. It taught them to expect disruption and to navigate it quietly.
What do they mean by navigating it quietly?
Well,
I don't think we navigated 9/11 quietly.
Okay. Say more.
Well, I was a flight attendant flying that day, so I might have a different opinion, but it was not quiet. The airport, when I finally made it back to Atlanta to my car, was eerily quiet because we rode back in a van, so there was no air traffic, and it was eerily quiet. But I don't remember us all handling it very quietly. I know it was a lot of talk. It brought the country together. There was a lot more patriotism. People were more vocal on certain things. I think it made us open up and talk more. I don't think we were quiet at all.
In the body of research, I think what they mean is because Gen X in history was situated between a very vocal boomer generation and a very vocal millennial generation, that in general Gen X at times
Right,
kind
they
of
were
goes
the
along.
observer.
Just kind of observer
Yeah.
goes
But
along.
I don't think so maybe during certain things, but
Okay.
like 9/11, I think it was our generation that was kind of parenting everybody, telling everybody it's going to be okay, and bringing out the flags and, making people aware, not forgetting. I don't think we were silent.
Good.
I think I was silent. I think I'm the epitome of that
Yeah,
statement.
maybe I
They
was.
came, they went, they happened, and I went on with my life.
Okay.
Really?
Maybe that's just the way that I grew up and
No.
kind of parenting. Not that we weren't parented, we were parented
sure.
well, but hanging out with my buddies is just say, we go on our family, it's do the next right thing. And that kind of thing didn't fit into something I had to do something about, so I went about.
Kept moving.
I guess
Moving.
maybe some of the other, when I was younger, some of the other issues, like the Cold War and things like that, I was too young, but I do remember 9/11. I do remember the recession, 2008. I don't think we were that quiet.
I just don't think we as a generation had that kind of one thing that went on for years. Like, the greatest generation ever, had World War II. Next, had, your Vietnams and things like that. We didn't really have a prolonged, I mean, things came and things happened, but they seem relatively short-lived to events like that just consume the consciousness of basically the world at their given times.
Okay. How about this one? Gen X is the bridge between boomers and millennials, but they're tired of playing middle management for the culture wars.
Bing, bing, bing.
Okay. Anybody want to take that one?
Well, it's hard too, because as a business owner, I have all of these generations represented in one building in my office. And so I've had to learn, that I can't communicate this message to this young person the same as I'm going to communicate it to this person, not just on personality, but because of their frame of reference of, who their parents were and the parent, because you're influenced by the generation before you. And that's, I'm thankful that that's something we're talking about now, and that we have these resources then to learn about so that we can be better communicators with each other, because I think that's really important.
That's right. Yeah. That's good.
Good word.
That's good, Melanie.
Well, I would put up in a different way, because in our time, we never had the kind of resources that are available today. Because these days, if you try to talk about something or try to prove that, hey, this is not the way you do it, but then you're wrong, because, these days, there are so many other means and ways to get that done. You just talk about internet, or you talk about Google, or you talk about AI, ChatGPT. It has every answer that can say that, hey, you better keep yourself within you. You don't try to tell me what I'm supposed to do, because I know it.
Okay.
And so that is the biggest challenge at times. I feel that should I put my point across, or should I just, wait and watch? And so I do that. I wait and watch.
Okay.
But unless and until asked, I may not answer.
All right.
As a business owner as well, it's much easier to deal with the baby boomer generation because they grew up watching their parents go to work every day, and they know just to get up at 4 o'clock and go to work and clock in and clock out. And somehow in our generation, I don't know where that changed. I grew up watching my parents going to work every day, so I went up. But the next generation, we have issues seeing that at some point in time, our generation stopped doing that, seeing both parents get up and go to work. And it could have been the internet or whatever, and they were just working from home.
Yeah.
But I see the changes in the generation after us,
Okay.
at least bringing young men to our type of business.
Which is a great segue to another question. If you had 45 seconds to rant as a Gen Xer about something generationally like you just touched on, what would your rant be about?
I think it's the lack of relationship connection somehow. So whether or not they respond to text messages or whether or not they reply to an email, it's like, okay, which method am I going to reach out that I'm going to get a response from? It's like, I just need to communicate with somebody and, yeah.
I don't know if you do the same thing, but all my customers now that are older, I say, do you text, do you email?
Yes.
Or do you like a phone call?
Yes.
I'm willing to communicate with you however you want, just tell me.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting connection. I recall a conversation with the Gen Z group, and I said, hey, the experts say that you are the most digitally connected, but the most relationally disconnected. Would you agree or disagree? And to the last person, 100%. They themselves would say the same thing,
Wow.
which reveals a hunger for what you just called for. I just want deeper relationships. And isn't it interesting that if we listen to each other, that we're all kind of wanting the same thing, not quite sure how to get there. That's why Darren's comment, just tell me how to talk to you, right? And I will talk to you that way, you know? Okay, great insight. All right. Can we switch and talk about church for a minute? Now let's segue into what it means to be in our faith as Gen X folks. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about this. What's your earliest memory of the church? Earliest memory in church?
Earliest memory in church,
Earliest memory of church, in church, experiencing church.
fidgeting in the pew and falling asleep on my mom's lap
Okay.
at Forest Hills Baptist Church in Decatur, Georgia.
Okay. All right.
Like, for me, it was sitting in a corner because in those days, I think the Sunday schools were after the church.
Okay.
And so we were supposed to be a part of the sermons and we used to sit in a corner. So that's all I remember, that, oh yeah, we got to sit and parents were in the pew watching us.
Watch out. Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. Okay.
we had to listen to the sermon.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So that's my memory. And
Got it.
the best part, I would say, that the day when my father wasn't available on that Sunday, so we were supposed to go to the church. There was no option to that, no exceptions. And we were supposed to take notes because I cannot forget that my dad would come either that evening or the next day and he would say, so what was the sermon about?
Pop quiz. You
And
better
I
listen.
was supposed to answer that correctly.
All right.
So I just cannot say, and the moment I do that, so you were not paying attention. And so that was the time we had some lesson to learn.
Yeah. Okay. Other early memories.
I think mine was kind of like yours. I don't really remember any sermons because the church I went to with my parents and my family was all the sermons were geared towards the adults. So that was when the children were supposed to just sit there. We played, my brother and I did tic-tac-toe together and we just sat quietly in the pew. So I probably, I guess my memories are really from Easter Eve because that was our candlelight service. And that's also when we did baptisms. And so I remember trying to set my good friend's hair on fire. She always sat in the pew in front of me, and we would always try to set one of each other's hair on fire before our parents would catch us. And then we'd blow out the candles, and then it was the baptism, and they had all the children walk to the back to the baptismal font to watch. And we could be right there. And so I just remember trying to set my friend's hair on fire and then walking to the back for the baptism. And I thought, well, if her hair's on fire, she'll be put out.
There's water.
So
There's much water.
yeah, those are my memories. And of course, I was really young, but I don't remember any sermons because they weren't directed to us, like yours are. I mean, I feel like you do a good job talking to the youth right in front. I think they feel very engaged. We didn't have that growing up.
Mel, you got to have a great story.
I have too many, and I'm narrowing them down because I grew up on the front pew of the church. My mom played the piano or the organ, either one. And my dad had no qualms whatsoever about calling us out in the middle of a sermon if we were not paying attention or behaving. And so, yeah, that's... I was just right
It'll
there.
stick.
And yeah,
It'll
it
stick with
sticks.
you. Okay. All right. Well, a different kind of question. Do any of you have So in the research, it said that it has been said that Gen X was the first generation to leave the church in mass in their early adulthood. So in early adulthood years, our generation saw the first real peak in an exodus from church, right? And a lot of that was because of some church hurt. This is a phrase that we use. Have you ever experienced church hurt in your own journey?
I don't know if it was church hurt. Not sure. I'm not familiar with that term, but I was one of the young adults that left the church en masse and then has come back.
Okay.
I feel like when I was growing up, I went to a Christian elementary school where we had Bible lessons every single day. We had chapel on Fridays. I went to church every Sunday. So I feel like I had a very well-established faith. But again, the church wasn't geared towards my age group. I was bored. I felt unseen. I didn't feel like I needed to be there to have a relationship with God. I felt like the only reason I was there was because my parents made me go. And I didn't understand when people would talk about, you should come back to church. Why? Why does it matter where I pray with God? Why does it matter where I talk to him? He'll always hear me. I have my own relationship with him. I don't need to be there. Okay. And it really wasn't until I had my own kids and I wanted them to at least have their own foundation and let them choose how they want to take that walk, that we started coming back to church. And it was really for them, to set an example for them, to give them a basis. And really, it was my girls that brought us back.
Okay. All right.
And now I see it is different. I think it was the church, not necessarily my age. I think it was just, it didn't speak to me as a young adult.
Okay. Others, how about church hurt? Anybody have church hurt? And if you did leave, why'd you come back?
So again, this one's going to be kind of different because I'm on the stage side of the congregation in some sense, because there was a church my dad pastored that had a much older demographic in it, and I recall that he wanted to move the church forward progressively, to some things that would minister to the young people, and was met with a lot of opposition to the point where they wanted to call it to a vote, whether we were keeping him as a pastor or not. And so people come out of the woodworks when things like that happen who haven't been to church even for Easter or Christmas. And so as a young person in my very early 20s, I sat back and looked at a church and was like, this is really the church? Like, it did not make sense to me that these were the people of God not loving on the person that was chosen there to be the leader and to be the shepherd. And so I had to deal with for a while what that meant for me going forward in my faith, because I saw them tear down my father. And it wasn't just that it was my father. I understood his role as the pastor because we lived it every day. And so, but to watch that church split apart because of this was, it was heartbreaking.
A lot of pain there.
A lot of pain there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, thank you
Yeah.
for being that vulnerable with us. So then, how'd you get from that to a place where you decided to not give up on the church? You're here.
Yeah.
And you lead in worship,
Yeah.
and you sing, and so how did that happen?
Right. I mean, the years, I think that goes back to who my family is too. My dad had such a love of the church that even in his hurt and pain at that point, it was never we're giving up on the people of God. It was God has somewhere else for us to serve. It was always about what is the next part we're giving of ourselves. And so at that point in time, too, I was young in my marriage, so I wasn't necessarily right there in the mix again. So it was carrying a hurt that was going on, but at the same time, finding a church for myself and my husband, Shane, that we felt like we were going to be able to grow in. But I did view the people of God through a different lens at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Because once you see, you cannot not see.
You can't.
Right? So that opens up a new kind of question for the table then. How has church and your idea of the church and your relationship with the church evolved over your lifetime in the church? How has it changed, if it has changed? How has it grown and changed and adapted as you've gone through life's experiences and maybe even a little bit of your own pain, your own church hurt? How has church changed or evolved for you over your life?
Well, for me, I came from a different faith background. I grew up in Judaism, had a bar mitzvah and all that. And the first time I even went to church was for marriage counseling in 1999 when the pastor wouldn't marry us unless we went to his counseling. We learned a lot of wonderful things then. So that was the first I knew of church. And then when we had kids a few years later, we knew we wanted the kids to grow up in some faith-based, which was wonderful. So I never had any really hurt in the church. And then obviously as our kids were youth, we did the youth downstairs. We coached their soccer teams and did all that type of stuff. We obviously, as the kids got into the middle age and we moved away from this church when we were in Augusta and then came back. But we've been growing in it now, even though our kids don't come. My youngest in the summer when she's home comes with us, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But mine's continued to grow and actually made me a much better person and wouldn't think about missing a Sunday.
Oh, that's great. Okay. How else, for the rest of you, has it changed or evolved your relationship with the church over the years?
Well, I'll go back and say this again. You can edit it out if you need to. So, because of the hurt I experienced and then looking forward, I almost demand transparency from the people that I'm going to be around. I want to know that people are going to be loving and be kind and be Christ-like, and that love does not come with conditions attached to it. That it's free and it's open to everyone, and I think that's where that has evolved for me.
Thank you.
Now that you brought that up, what changed that a ton for me, I don't know if y'all have seen The Chosen and seen them, that really changed the way I look at church. And not that you want to separate church from Jesus Christ, but there was a huge separation. Now when I talk to my friends, you bring up church, they're like, In fact, my best friend went to Carson Newman. Yeah. He would test the professors. He was trying to always get on their nerves. But
right.
If we ever talk about Jesus, all that from The Chosen, I mean, it's completely different, the conversations we have.
Okay.
But it's all about the love, and it's been wonderful.
That's good. That's good.
Growing up, church to me that's just what we did. And it was through my high school years virtually every good memory I had was something that I did at church with, youth trips or whatever. I mean, totally spent my 20s completely outside of the church. And when I came back, I discovered that community is beyond important, and that there's just way too much that goes on in our lives to not have some people that you can be grounded with, that you can lean on, and that you can be there for them to lean on when tough times come for them. And so mine went from, okay, I'm supposed to be there, get to, there's purpose to being there. There's purpose to getting in that small group, getting in with people that mean something to you, that you want to do life with. And then obviously, the the worship is just, I mean,
So what you're bringing up now is a great tie-in to a previous conversation with the other group. So I asked them a question, and I'm going to ask you the same question, okay? So I'm about to hand you, we have in our church what we call our 7 core values, okay? This has been developed over years, and these are 7 things that we think are the most important things in our church that we highly value together. And of course, you go on our website and read all about them. There's a big paragraph and all the scriptures. But in summary, here's what they are. So take one and pass it down, and I want to ask you a question about it. So in summary fashion, they are these. They are, we value excellence in worship, theological depth and diversity, authentic Christian community, the gospel of Jesus Christ and the growth of his church, responsible Christian stewardship, congregational courage, and a missional consciousness where every member is mobilized to serve. Now, those are things that we say in this church are very important to the life of this church. So my question to you is this.
you ain't gonna make us rank these, are you?
Listen, no, you don't have no pop quiz. But if you were forced to and said I could only hold one up as the most important of all these. Now I know it's an unfair game I'm playing with you because we all believe all of these matter immensely to our church. But when it comes to your experience and your line of sight and your perspective as a member of your generation and your experiences in Christ, what do you hold in your mind as the most important of these for whatever reason?
Definitely not fair to only pick one.
Yeah, I know.
I would say the missional consciousness where every member mobilized to service.
Okay, why would you say that?
That's just how we move forward. I mean, we could keep it all in these doors.
Right.
That doesn't really do anything. Of course, we're all here because that's what we seek to be closer to Jesus. But I think you got to be out there doing it in some way, shape, or form, or at least providing for that, whether it be money or stuff to go and help that.
All right. What else?
Well, I'll go with the theological depth and diversity.
Theological depth and
Theological depth because basically I feel that a church should be talking about everything from the Bible or whatsoever they say. It has to go as per the scriptures. And when it comes to diversity, it's very essential to have different kind of people around you for your own growth and for the growth of the church. So that's where I think this should be the one.
So for me, it's the gospel of Jesus Christ, because I think I came to a point in my faith journey, having grown up as a pastor's child, that I had to strip away everything that I knew to be familiar about my faith, because a lot of it depended on who was in the pulpit. And it's not that my dad ever spoke anything that was not the Word of God, but I took everything he said literally.
Sure.
And so I had to learn that, you talked about the different containers. I had to strip away one container and come to a new container that was just me and Jesus. So it was just me and Jesus, and everything else around that was peripheral.
Okay.
So if I've got Jesus and he is at my core, then everything else that goes around, it's peripheral for me. Like that is my foundation, and that's what I look for, is that the gospel of Jesus is central, and then the other things grow out from that.
Okay.
If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said authentic Christian community. Today, it's excellence in the worship of God. And there's been a switch for me in just the way I worship here on Sundays, whether it's in Sunday school, whether it's worship, it totally shapes how I feel when I walk out the door to do missional consciousness or whatever, or even my daily devotionals and Bible studies. It's just, for me, it's incredibly, I depend on it.
I agree. That you said almost exactly what I was going to say. I think it starts from when the service starts and the music. I think it's just, really kind of amazing to sit there and look around and see everybody worshiping together and praising God. And it's very uplifting and moving at times. And I think that sets the stage and opens your mind and your heart to hear the message and to hear the gospel and hear the rest of the service, and makes you want to take the gathering and make it a scattering. I think it all starts with being with like-minded individuals praising God. And I think that sets the whole stage for the whole
Okay.
rest of
Since
it.
you're part of Generation X, which one's yours?
Yeah, that's not fair. You can't add, no. Yeah. Next question. Actually, what's wonderful though is
Oh, yeah, I can't believe we all said something
Yeah.
different.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And honestly, I really think it has something to do with our generation, because I'm going to tell you, the Gen Z conversation, 100% authentic Christian community. They are so longing,
Yeah.
so desperate for community.
Yeah.
Without a single exception, it was, we need, because we have all this, but we don't
They
have
have a tight group, though. They do.
They do.
They do have
They do.
that. It
and there
really
was
is.
there were some moments of emotional connection yesterday because of
Yeah,
that.
they really do.
But that's a generational need that is vacant in the midst of hyperconnectivity to actually confess we're not that connected. We're connected, but not that. And yet, this generation, which was raised very independently and autonomously and self-sufficiently, all have different answers.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, except a couple of answers, but
If we could pick two, we could probably overlap some.
Yeah.
probably would. That's right. I love it. Okay, I want you to do this. We're going to rapid fire some statements, and I want you to react to them. And we'll only unpack it if it's something that really triggers you. Okay. So
You used that word that I was going to rant about earlier about millennials.
about being triggered by. Okay. You can still rant. It's still fair to rant. Now, so Gen Xers. Here's the statement. These are from the experts who study us. Gen Xers grew up in the heyday of seeker-sensitive megachurches and Christian subculture. Now, many of them are asking, was it deep enough and was it real? You resonate with that? React to that?
For me, not at all, because I grew up in tiny churches.
okay.
And so, I mean, that I never, the day that I walked into First Baptist Church of Atlanta and there was a camera in there, I was like, what have I
happening to
gotten
me?
into?
Okay, right.
So yeah, that doesn't for me.
All right,
So,
let's truck on then. So, second statement. They've been behind the curtain. Gen X is weary of hype. They want substance over show. In other words, they've been behind the curtain. They've seen through the 80s, the televangelist scandals, the corruption. They've been behind the curtain. They don't want hype. They want a substance over show. Do you agree with that?
I personally do, but I know that a lot of people I know that I associate with may not. They still are into the mega churches and the hype and the,
Okay.
but I do. But I think it goes back to maybe the church that I was raised in was very traditional. And even though I didn't feel a connection to that particular church or that denomination, per se, it is still in me, and I still crave traditional services,
Okay.
and I still crave what my faith was based off of, if that makes sense.
Okay.
But I don't think it's necessarily a generational thing.
Next statement. Many Gen X Christians are quietly deconstructing. And a trigger word. Deconstructing means they're deconstructing their faith. They're throwing some things out, keeping some things, reconstructing what it means to be. It's me and Jesus now. It's the deconstructing of some things. So here's the statement. Many Gen X Christians are quietly deconstructing, not because they're angry, but because they're exhausted. They're spiritually hungry, but institutionally cautious. Okay, no triggers on that one. Okay, we'll truck on. Gen X still shows up, but often feels invisible in church. They're the ones volunteering, giving, holding it together, but few sermons speak directly to their season of life.
I don't feel that here at all.
You say something every week that hits me
Yeah.
right square in my chest. Every week.
Good, okay.
Especially for the last year.
Oh, shucks. Stop.
No, it's why that switch happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seriously.
Well, I think Melanie brought
Yeah.
something up earlier saying about the love of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I think this church, I have stuff on my phone that I read every day,
Yeah.
and bring the love is one of them. Just a statement that I put on there, and I think that every Sunday school, the sermon, there is a bring the love moment.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. They want faith that can withstand hardship, not just a promise of some blessing. Gen X has suffered loss, been through divorce, disappointment, and burnout, and they need churches that can handle real life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Out of doubt.
Okay. Gen X is less likely than, this is a good one. Gen X is less likely than boomers to be loyal to denominations, but more likely than millennials to quietly endure spiritual tension. They are spiritual survivors. How do you react to that?
The first part I think is true. I don't understand the second
Yeah,
part.
I'm like, read it again.
So Gen Xers, or Gen X is less likely than boomers to be loyal to denominations, but more likely than millennials to quietly endure spiritual tension. And not unpacking what that means. Millennials, according to those who study us, have demonstrated a mass exodus from faith whenever the spiritual things being taught are in conflict with what they believe, and so the tension sometimes is too much to remain in place, and they depart. And so what this statement is saying is that Gen X has more of a tendency to remain even in the midst of tension that you don't quite fully affirm.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, I don't know. I think that we realize that not everything is perfect. People aren't perfect. The church isn't perfect. Our government isn't perfect. Our
Right.
presidents aren't perfect. I think our generation understands that, and we just find, what can we tolerate?
Okay.
Where, what matches with my beliefs the most? Where do I feel like I'm getting the most?
Okay.
Not everything, because you're not going to get that. But I think that's accurate.
Okay. All right. When and where do you feel most spiritually alive? And the opposite would be, when and where do you feel most spiritually empty or far from God?
Could have sent some of these ahead of time.
No.
I'm most spiritually alive when I'm given to others, especially in No Longer Bound that we do. There's something about doing that. I mean, addiction is so far from me, not from the people around me, but to go and to listen to them and to give to them I feel alive.
Okay. What doubts or spiritual struggles do you still carry around?
The whys.
The whys, why things happen the way
Yeah,
they do.
just, I have a lot of questions for God when I get there.
Okay.
I mean, I know that it's in his timing, and it's, there's a lot of things that I say, why would he do that to somebody? Why do they, why did that happen to the good people? Why does it happen to, the innocent? Why, there's a lot of whys, but, that's where your faith comes in. It's not for me to answer, but I do still struggle with that sometimes.
Yeah, just the fact that there are a lot of questions that will never be answered
Right,
this
right.
side of eternity.
Right.
And that try as you might, the answer's not even in the scripture. That it comes down back to just our relationship and just trusting
Right, and
in Christ and just knowing the heart of God the Father too in this. And I think in part of that for me too is I grew up with the verse, all things work together for good, meaning that it's going to be, yay, it's all going to be great, and then learning at some point that, that word good could mean something that's really hard. That God's version and definition of good might be heartache and might be struggle because of the way he's going to use it.
right.
And coming to a place in your life to have peace with that, it's a hard place.
Melanie,
That'll preach, Mel.
It will preach. How did you learn that?
Wow.
Or maybe the question, how are you learning that?
How am I
Because
learning?
we're all in school, right? When it
Yeah.
comes to that, we're all in school learning to recognize that sometimes good will be the hard thing and
Yeah.
not the easy way. And
Yeah.
how have you come to that in your journey?
Well, for me in particular, I've grown up with a set of rules as they are that, and you follow the rules like any good firstborn Baptist kid would, then things are going to turn out just right, and they are going to turn out good. And when we go along in our life and then our children start to teach us different lessons and we learn that they're going to go their own way as we grow. And then for me, and I don't know if this is here and this is whatever, but I'll share with y'all. So, the rules about loving people and are we truly going to be people of Christ and love unconditionally was put back in my face as a parent when I learned that I had a child who was gay and transgender. And what's a Southern Baptist preacher's kid supposed to do with that?
Right.
And at the heart, when I took that to Jesus and was like, this was not in the story. This was not part of the plan. And this surely can't be defined as good. That Jesus reminded me that it is all just about the soul and the heart of the person that he is after. And that my job is to love that person no matter what, unconditionally. And as a mom, I could not help but love my child. And so that's where my world completely changed. And then it became, am I going to find a community of church that would not look at me differently because I'm a parent who's choosing to love my child? Can I find a pastor who's going to love my family just like we are? And that's what I found here. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Melanie. Thank you for your courage.
And we're all here, we all kind of,
Yeah.
not to be religious, you have to take some leap of faith.
Yeah.
We all don't know all the answers, and the Bible doesn't give you all the answers.
And you're not supposed to.
You're not supposed, so
But you still ask why.
That's right.
it's kind of great that there's a place like this.
You know what? And this is not for the episode, maybe not, but heads up, stay tuned because after Easter of next year, the series that I have planned leading into the summer is called Why did that happen? And it's about trauma, trauma, suffering, and the theology of hope. How do you hold something that you can't understand next to a hope that it's okay?
Yeah.
You got to wait till after Easter.
You got to wait. Stay tuned.
I don't know where this fits,
Okay.
but me growing up in another faith denomination, we had gone to church for a long time and I didn't get baptized. And then we came here and I met David White.
Right.
And that whole pre-thing that we had at one point in time where you all sat around and just the faith that I had to go into. And then in 2008, David baptized me in the church was something else. But I mean, it was jumping in with both feet. I'm an engineer, so
Yeah.
all the things you read. And I was just telling Sean earlier that I've never read through the whole Bible, so I figured I might as well at one point in time do it. And you read through the Old Testament and people living to 900 years old. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Right. That's good. Okay.
Without a phone, he lived that long.
Couple more.
He ate well.
We're almost near the end. That's right. We're almost near the end. So, but a couple of questions about, because we've been talking so candidly. I'm so grateful to you. Talking about your experience with church. Let's talk now for a moment about your experience or your hope for church. The church that lives on after us. The church that will live after we're all gone. So a couple of questions. What needs to be healed or repaired in the church for trust to deepen in this world, according to your perspective, your experience? What do we need to work on, not just in this church, but in the church at large? What needs to be healed or deepened that we have some work to do in the church and the world?
I think we just need to get people back into small groups. That whole practice in the way, and I know the small groups there's a lot less of them now than when we joined the church a long time ago, but
Okay.
without those small groups and that practice in the way, again, that changed my faith a ton as well.
Okay, good. Others?
I would say be open, be adaptive, be welcoming.
Yeah.
And that would make a lot of difference because in the days to come, it will be very hard for the next generation to continue being a church.
That's right.
Because you and me, we were taught that, hey, you got to go to church. But that doesn't happen with our children. So
So in the church of the future, the church that is coming, the church that is continuing to grow, what is one value or virtue or strength that must be held on to? And what is something that the church may have to learn to let go of? What is something that has worked so far for years, but something that needs to be held on to and not let go of? And what's something that churches need to learn to hold loosely and be willing to let go in order?
in my opinion, I would say that, hey, learn to respect others' opinion. Because whatsoever you're saying is just your opinion. It doesn't mean that, hey, this is what it has to be. So I need to look from that perspective that, hey, it is his opinion, which can be different from mine, and that's totally okay. So that would help to be, a part of the same kind of belief of a church to be a church.
Okay, good word. Good word.
I don't know if you're talking about the church in general or this church, but
Church in general,
I'm not sure then.
Okay.
This church in general, the gospel of Jesus Christ, and then not worrying about numbers of people that come in the door.
Yeah.
They're going to find this place if we do a good job sharing the love.
I think based on the research you were sharing with us and in your talk with the younger kids, that their need for connection, that's where we've got to continue to improve on fostering that community and that connection that keeps them stuck. Because I mean, growing up, but and the one thing letting go of is the judgment. And I was guilty of it. I mean, I remember the first time I saw a kid walk in shorts and flip-flops. I'm going, what are you doing? My mom and dad would have absolutely stroked out if I'd walked in the room and said, this is what I'm wearing to church. And then I realized it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, along those notes, I'd probably say Yeah, the connection, but focusing on the whole family, all ages, especially, but start when they're young and make them feel like it's their church and that they're part of the church family. Because that's what's going to keep them to stay. That's going to keep them staying. That's what made me leave. And it was actually that age group that brought me back. So don't underestimate the youth and don't overlook them, because they really are carrying the church now, and you don't even realize it.
It's good.
They're already playing a part.
Okay. Good word. All right. In one phrase or one sentence, one phrase, what's your hope or prayer for the future church?
Mine's what I have in my text, bring the love.
Bring the love.
Good one.
Good one.
Share the love.
Share the laughter.
Good. All right. Good, good, good.
A vibrant community demonstrating love. Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can't wordsmith that any better.
That's
Yeah.
pretty good. That's right. Okay. Guys, this has been really, really a blessing to me. Thank you for your transparency and willingness to open up and share part of your journey in the faith, recognizing we're all continuing on the journey, and this gives us an insight just into our world of Gen X. So let's say a quick prayer, and then we'll be done. God, I'm so grateful for these, my friends, and for all of the experiences, every one of them that has shaped and formed, developed them into who they are and who they are becoming. I thank you that you have brought each of them and their families to this church. We thank you for the strength of their faith and their hope in you. And we pray together for all that we've covered here. We pray for your love to continue to grow and to expand, and for your love to be visible in our lives, both when we gather here under the steeple and when we scatter and go about out into the world to represent not just you, but to represent this church. May our lives be a kind of salt and a kind of light that this world needs. We pray these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Thank you all so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.